All right, welcome to the Lion's Share, where we talk football, finance, family, faith, and fun. And today we have a special guest, Colin Weber. Colin's a tight end at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. He's a 49er. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mitch. I'm glad to be here.
All right, well, we're excited to have you. Known Colin a long time. My daughter Grace, who's going on to play basketball at Ferris State, played with Colin's younger sister Maddie for a number of years. So that's kind of how we got to know your family and your parents, Jeff and Jill, and your brother Drew. And so I've known Colin, I guess, since you were in middle school, really.
Yeah.
And you're from Hopkins, Michigan. A lot of people might not know where Hopkins, Michigan is, and people listening around the country, that's okay because a lot of people in Michigan don't even know where Hopkins, Michigan is. So Colin's claim to fame, I just realized today, is that he's the only Division I athlete from Hopkins. So that had to be kind of cool as you were striving for success, huh?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I think it's cool now. A lot of people still kind of have my back from Hopkins. People who graduated, 20 years ago, still reaching out and telling me they're proud of me and I'm putting on for the city. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, no doubt. It's for those of you who don't know, it's a small kind of rural farming community a little south of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and so yeah, you were kind of a hidden gem down there. So, but you were a multi-sport athlete in high school. I guess when I first met you, it was through your sister playing hoops, and that's kind of where I saw you first, was in the gym playing hoops. And I mean, you had a pretty good pedigree in hoops. Played for the family, which was a big travel team in Michigan out of, I think, Flint, right? Flint or Detroit.
Yeah, Flint, Detroit area.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were playing with some high level hoopers, and you had a pretty good upside in hoops. What ultimately pushed the needle to football for you?
I think it was like my first love was for sure basketball, and I was convinced I'm playing college ball. And then I kind of started to think about I was getting recruited for basketball and football. And I started to think about what makes sense pro wise at the next level. And, there's 14 guys on an NBA team and they're all 6'7" and really elite athletes. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's 53 on an NFL team. And I just thought I had the best chance I had to play pro ball was in the NFL. So that's kind of what moved the needle for me. And I think it's fanning out in the right direction for me.
So what age were you I mean, you're thinking in high school, you're already thinking ahead. You're thinking past college into the pros. What age are you when you're thinking that?
It was pretty late because I didn't, like I said, I was always convinced I'm going to go play college basketball. And then football kind of became a thing when I was 17, I'd say. And yeah, 16, 17. And then that's kind of when I started having that conversation with myself.
Yeah, that's impressive because most kids in high school are thinking about what they're going to have for lunch or snack. You're thinking beyond college, even thinking about pro football. And I can think back to my days. I mean, I kind of made that determination between football and basketball early on, just but I was thinking, what's my best chance for a scholarship, right?
Sure, sure.
Because I was a kid that didn't come from a lot of money. I knew I needed to earn a scholarship to go to college, and I knew football was kind of my bread, my meal ticket. So I. From sophomore year on, I kind of focused on football, still played hoops, but I also didn't have near the athletic ability that you had, or have. So that helped. I figured I could get along at tight end a little better than I would at a 6'4" power forward
Yeah,
in
right.
college. So, well, let's talk a little bit about your time at UNCC. You come in there under a different regime. Will Healy was the coach when you got recruited. He was there a couple of years, and then he was relieved of his position. But talk about that, I guess, having to change staffs kind of midstream. You're coming into your third year last year. Had played a little bit, but not as much as you probably would have wanted. New regime comes in, Biff Poggi. What was that transition like for you?
Yeah, I think there's two ways that you can look at something like that. And you can look at it like, oh man, I got to prove myself again to, the whole staff, or it's like, it's a clean slate and it's, everyone's on an equal playing field. And for me, not only was it my second head coach, but it was my fourth tight end coach in 2.5 years that I had starting last year. And so I just looked at it as an opportunity, clean slate, everyone's on the same page, and really just busted my butt and worked as hard as I could, and ultimately got on the field and played a bunch of ball, had a good season, and it's kind of put me in position to where I'm at now to make a shot at the next level. So
Yeah, no, you had a great year last year. 34 catches, 362 yards. 0 touchdowns. So I'm still tied with you for collegiate touchdowns. And I was busting on you last year because I think you had what 54-yarder and they chased you down.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen this year. I know you've done the training. You're going to get to the end zone, but coming into this year, fourth highest player grade among returning tight ends nationally, which is pretty impressive. I know you want to get bigger and better than that even, but and I shot you a note a few weeks ago when I saw you were AAC second team preseason tight end, and I loved your answer. I won't give all the language, but you said you're not worried about that. You're worried about All-American, and I love that. Set your goals high, so that's cool. But last year with the year that you had, you were named team offensive MVP, which is pretty cool because not too many tight ends are getting MVP votes. Is that team voted?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Coaches and
So
players. Yeah.
yeah. So with that, I mean, that's a high testament, because you're doing more than just catching the rock. I know we watched a little film together last year during the season. Just, that was kind of my reason I got to the league and stayed in the league. I certainly wasn't the athletic pass catcher that you have the capability to be, but I lasted 7 years and it was pretty much just from blocking and having the tenacity and an attitude to stay on a block. So, I know that's something that you prided yourself on and worked at.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's talk about coming into this season. Obviously, high expectations for you. Probably a lot more confidence than you had coming into previous season, just because you went out and did it last year. I mean, what are your goals this year? I mean, you're a 21-year-old kid coming into your fourth year. You've got aspirations of being a pro someday. What are you looking for this year, I guess, as you look out on the horizon?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I just want to win, right? At the end of the day. And I think if we win as a team, that's when individual success comes. Um,
Absolutely.
but I think for me personally, I want to be an all conference guy, first team. I want to be in the Mackey running. I want to catch 60 balls for 500 yards, and I want to have at least 5 touchdowns this year. And I think that's setting the bar high for me, but I love it. That's something you should have something to chase every year. So
Are those goals something you're reviewing each day in the off season? Morning, night, breakfast, lunch. There you go. Boom.
right
I love
there.
it. I love
Yeah.
it. Because it's
Uh,
so important, right? Set the goals. Goals are great, but goals without systems to get there are just dreams, right? And
right.
part of the system to get there is, man, get up every morning and brushing your teeth, looking at that thing, or
Yep.
having a drink and of water, whatever, and always seeing those and having those in your mind is key. So I love it that you had that right there.
Oh yeah.
Uh, all right. Well, obviously, team. You're exactly right. Team success brings a lot of accolades and attention for individuals. But from an individual standpoint, Colin, I mean, let's talk a little bit about, like I said, you're thinking about pros even back in high school. So, what would have to happen, I guess, for you in your mind that you'd even consider, going pro this year versus, staying in college?
Yeah, I think I mean we've talked about it a little bit before, but if I was a projected third or fourth rounder, I think it would be really smart to just get in there and try and try my luck, I guess you'd call it, because another year of college, it's another year on your body, and it's another year where you're just taking a lot of time away, and you never know what could happen in that year in college. So I think being able to get in there at the right time is really important for me.
Well, there's only so much tread on the tire, as my surgeon in Pittsburgh told me after my second blown out knee. So
That's
uh,
right.
I think that's a wise place to go or to be thinking. So um, when you look at it, let's talk. One thing I want to talk about, a couple things. Number one, you're the first D1 division athlete out of Hopkins. And as you look at UNC Charlotte's record of draft picks, just looking in recent years, I looked at their draft, last few years. They had a third rounder in 19, a third and fourth rounder in 20, and then nothing the next couple of years, and then a seventh rounder last year. So, how important is it for you to raise the bar, to be above what maybe some of your predecessors have been drafted in the NFL?
I think it's very important, and I think it would be really cool to be the first tight end drafted from here. We're such a young program, But you look at the guys that have came out of Charlotte and are in the league now: Alex Highsmith, Larry Ogunjobi, Nate Davis, a bunch of studs, and even Grant Dubose, who went last year, he's tearing it up in Packers mini camp right now. And I think a lot of people, as time goes on, are going to start to look at Charlotte and think, man, maybe these guys got a little something to them. So I think raising that bar is really important, and I hope I'm the next one that gets to be able to get drafted from here.
Let's talk about NIL. Okay. And I think this is something that, has transformed the landscape of college football and college athletics in general, especially football being the biggest money sport. Um, you look at this year to year and you see so much transition on rosters now, right? Because I always say it's less, college football is less stable than the NFL. At least in the NFL, guys are signing 3, 4, 5 year deals and they're there, right?
Yeah.
College, I mean, especially now, you literally could play four programs in 4 years if you really wanted to. And obviously, programs are taking advantage of that. Knocking on the door of people, trying to get them to switch schools. And you've seen that in your program, even guys coming in, guys going out. What is that? I guess kind of felt like since 21 when they instituted NIL.
Yeah, it's funny because the first couple years, pretty much the exact same roster, right? You take a couple transfers here and there, but getting a whole new team was unheard of just 2 or 3 years ago. So
Right.
you look at it now and I mean, you can use it as a huge advantage, or it could be a huge disadvantage. There's some schools who don't use the transfer portal at all and probably will take a step back. And it's when you use the transfer portal, you get experience, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things in football. If you could, get a 4-star prospect at tight end out of high school, it's probably not as valuable as somebody who's played, 500 snaps in
Could
college.
take them a few years to like
Right.
you, right? I mean, like me, same thing. I mean, it took me a while, man. When you're coming in, you don't have your man strength at 18 like you do when you're 21.
Right.
So
Right. And I think there's just no time to develop those guys anymore. And that's honestly, it does a disservice to freshmen, and it's tough for them, but that's the
it does.
landscape now is you want experience.
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably had some contact people probably trying to reach out to you after you had a good year and showed some of your skills last year. So, but you obviously decided to stick UNC Charlotte, and I guess talk about that a little bit without getting into specifics in terms of at UNC Charlotte's level. Are they able to put together pretty attractive packages to get kids taken care of?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think being in Charlotte, the collective that we have is they do well. I mean, it's such a big bank hub, and Lowe's headquarters here. There's a million headquarters here, and
Right.
our head coach being Biff Poggi, he's got a lot of connections, which has worked out well. Um, so yeah, they're able to take care of us, but I think the biggest reason I stayed more than anything, I don't think money matters at all to me, but I had a really good relationship with our staff, and our offense is very tight end oriented, and you don't get that at a lot of places. I mean, it's maybe us, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Iowa, and you don't see offenses like that anymore. So that's one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah, and as you look at that, I mean, short-term thinking versus long-term thinking, right? You might be able to go somewhere and get a few more bucks now, but what kind of opportunity are you going to have going to a, whatever Power Four school or whatever? You're going to have obviously other tight ends in the program, but you're like you said, you're in a good spot. MVP last year, I'm sure they're going to try to make you a focal point of the offense this year and grow that, per your goals, grow that role even further. So that's great. And let's step back. You mentioned Coach Poggi again, and he's an interesting character for folks around the country that don't know him. This guy, he doesn't need football, right? I mean, he made pretty good coin in his previous job, and coaches really just because he loves it, right? And if you don't know Biff Poggi, folks, go and Google Biff Poggi and check out some of the images. I call him, he's like a sexier version of Bill Belichick, man. He's got the cut off sleeves,
Yeah.
he doesn't necessarily dress the best, but he's cool with it. And talk a little bit about kind of what he's brought, relative to maybe the previous regime or just coaches you played for in the past. What can you say about Coach Poggi?
Yeah, I think he's a great glue guy. And by that I mean he loves the kids and our team so much. It's not as much about X's and O's for him. He was able to hire a great staff to be able to do the X's and O's for him, but he's kind of like the grandfather of our team, right? You can come to him for anything you need. Um, if you have money issues, just you want to talk, whatever it is, he's always going to have an open door. And his biggest thing is he loves to help his kids, and that's kind of rare in college. It's a lot more about, where are we going as a football team, and he's obviously got that side to him too, right? He's head coach, so like I said, I think he loves his players so much, and it's an open door all the time. But he's also got that head coach side to him too, right? So he cares about where you're going as a team and who we're bringing in and the quality of not only the player but the character too, right? So he's got that good balance of both, and he hired a good staff to kind of be able to take his hands off a little bit for the X's and O's.
Right. And I think if I read it, if I remember reading it, I mean, I think he donated back either his salary or a good chunk of it so that it's just he could bring in some higher quality assistants, right?
That's right. Yeah, he took a bunch of his salary and he added it on to a bunch of other our assistants. So
Yeah. That's great. So, uh, you know, Colin, you're a kid that, I played in the league 7 years. I kind of know, I know kids that have the talent when I see it. And, we were joking earlier before we recorded, but, I brought you and a buddy up to throw balls at a middle school in Rockford, Michigan, where I live. And I number one, I threw way too many balls that day. I hadn't thrown footballs in a while, and I'm got you guys out there throw. I mean, you made some great catches because I don't put it on target necessarily, but that's okay. But I woke up a little sore the next day. But there are some things that stood out to me immediately that I even texted your parents that day, and I probably told you too. I can't recall, but you've got some difference making skills, and I saw it in you early, just playing hoops and whatnot. But you've got quick twitch. You're a big kid. You're rangy. You're long. You put on some weight. What are you weighing now at UNC Charlotte?
55 right now.
255. So 6'5", 255.
Yep.
But you've got that what I call the it factor in terms of speed and more importantly, just quickness out of a break, right? And that's something that stood out to me that day when we were throwing balls. And I came back and I told my wife Angela and texted your folks. I say, hey, this kid can play on Sundays, and I firmly believe that. And so I'm super excited to watch you progress this year and see where you go. I know you've got camp starting up today, and that's always a exciting time of year to get the ball rolling, because I know you've been busting it all off season, and today's the day to put all that hard work to work, right?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think another opportunity, right? And I'm excited for another year and kind of take this rocket ship, take it off a little bit. So,
Well, I wish you well, brother, and I thank you for taking time today to jump in and join us. The day you're heading to camp. So we'll be watching. Ange and I are coming down to watch you on the October 5th game at home. So I'm excited to see you live. But I'll definitely be watching as your season unfolds. And I wish you well, and God bless and Godspeed. Stay healthy and keep doing what you're doing, man, and just keep building on it.
yeah, thank you, Mitch, and thanks for having me on.
You bet. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and and we'll alert you to other interviews like this. But Colin, again, thank you, and we'll see you as your season plays out. All right, brother.
Thanks, Mitch.